So we're going to be talking about an NNPC interview for the role of graduate trainee, which you applied for, right? And there are some basic things you need to know prior to it. Um, there is really not much from what you already know if you've attended other interviews. It's just that NNPC has a little tweak to their own process, which this session is going to help you learn. Then we have some things that we cannot go into thoroughly because this is just an hour session. For instance, we would not have the time to go deeply into oil and gas industry review, but we have something we're going to provide for you, which you can read up on, so that we can just focus on giving you the basics and then walking you through the mock session and see how you perform, then make recommendations for where you need improvements, and then we call it a day. So here's the session breakdown. This session is going to contain an introduction, which I've just done. We're going to give you useful tips about the interview process. Then we're going to go through your CV because you are expected to get questions from your CV. And then we are going to go through a mock interview session and then give you feedback and you see how you can go with that. If you need further consultation after this, you can always talk with the team. So oil and gas industry review, like I said, is not covered in this. So here are some useful tips that you need to know ahead of the interview. Firstly, have you received your invites? Have you received your invites?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Did they mention how many copies of CV you should provide?
No, I don't think they mentioned that.
Okay. What was your own date?
20th.
Okay, 20th
of January.
So, okay, in the past, they used to say, come with X copies of your CV or thereabout. And if they had done that, the copies of CV you are to provide usually indicates how many people will be in the panel that would interview you. So usually it used to range from 5 to 7 people. And that 5 to 7 people includes 6 members and 1 chairman. So there's 1 chairman of the committee, of the interview committee, and then 6 others. And all of them would have a copy of your CV. So you should be expecting questions from your CV. So you get accustomed to your CV, the dates, years, duties, the stuff you have written in your CV. You need to go back and read your CV properly so that anything they ask you from your CV, you can be able to answer and defend it, right? So also gaps, if there are things missing in your CV like interest, hobbies, they might ask you a question, why is this not there? And then you can always know how to present yourself. So you also need to know about NNPC. There are basic things you need to know, NNPC and its subsidiaries. How many subsidiaries does NNPC have? Who is the current GMD? Before they used to call it Group Managing Director, but they've changed it now to Group CEO. So who is the current Group CEO? You should know that. We have a part of this that contains those information, which you can always read up after this session. So division in the upstream, midstream, downstream. We've also simplified this for you. We've provided the answers to this. It's somewhere in this document and we'll share with you. The capacities of the refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery, Kaduna Refinery, and Warri Refinery. So you should know this one on your fingertips. The NNPC operates 3 refineries in Nigeria, Port Harcourt Refinery, and the capacity of Port Harcourt Refinery is 210,000 barrels per day. That's the production capacity. For the one for Warri is 235,000 barrels per day, and I think Kaduna is 110,000 barrels per day, right? So it's also documented here. You can take note of that. The current GMD is it Kiera? Yeah, Kiera, the Kaira. Yeah, so it's also documented here. So you should know that, and you should know some other things about an NPC. So feel free, do some surfing about an NPC because you don't know what might come. We've detailed some things here that you might also know. Then know your field. right? You study petroleum engineering, you're still in your early stages of your career because you recently graduated not too long ago. So you need to know some terminologies related to petroleum engineering and the likes, formula, differences between key terms. So some of those key terms might not necessarily, they might just be terms that could be confusing. For instance, what's the difference between technology and engineering? Or what is tech, who is an artisan, who is a technologist, who is an engineer? You get all those kind of stuff, right? So you should be able to know how to explain where all of these people, what is science and technology, what's the difference between science and technology, get stuff like that. So, and then key things in petroleum engineering, what's reservoir, what is a reservoir, what is blowout, all those kind of stuff. So you need to know about them and be able to just discuss them. So for you, graduate trainee, they are not basing so much on your experience. They are just basing more on what you know and what you can, how you can present yourself. That's really what they want to find out, and how well you can present yourself. So if you can do that, you stand a good chance of getting the job. So you should also have knowledge of general current affairs. They might throw one here or there, maybe latest news concerning NNPC. So you might also need to read up some latest things NNPCs up to. Names of people I've already mentioned, who is stuff like petroleum, who is the current minister for petroleum resources, who is the current GMD. You should know all of those. Those are expected. Those are stuff you should expect to see during your interview, right? Names of senators, so state you're from, the names of your senator representing maybe your region, the name of your governor, the name of the president. You should know that. Don't be surprised if they ask. So you don't want to go and fumble if they are asked. Well, what's the name of the minister from your state or any minister representing the federal government, the federation from your state? You should know those two at the back of your finger. So before we go to common interview questions, we have two sessions of these common interview questions. I will take this, then after this, we will go and review your CV so that you can have an idea of some of the questions that can come out from your CV. Then we will come back to the mock session, right? So for these common interview questions and how to tackle them, mostly what you need to understand is that when these questions come, it's not really about what you said but how you said it, right? If there's at any point in time you're asked any question you do not have an answer to, always feel free to ask that they clarify or that they repeat, or also do it politely. So for instance, if you're asked a question you did not hear, you can just say, thank you, but I didn't really hear that. Can I get the question again, or can it be rephrased so that I can easily understand it? Now, that is a way to ask them to revise a question or repeat a question that you did not hear or you don't understand properly. So common questions you should expect is, why do you want to work for NNPC? What do you know about NNPC, right? All those questions are going to come. Why did you leave your former place? Or why do you want to leave your current place of work? You understand? Because you're a graduate trainee. These are some of the things you would see. We've done well to answer what do you know about NNPC? So you can always read that up and just form your own answer. So these things are not for you to cram anyway. The sample answer is not for you to cram, just for you to know and know how you can present that. So which of our business location across Nigeria would you prefer? So of course, depending on the state you're in Port Harcourt, you can easily say River State, Port Harcourt, River State, and that's just straight to the point. What skills do you have? You need to know the skills you have and which ones will be relevant to NNPC. So it's not when they are asking what skills do you have at your staff job. So for you, the skills they are asking of is not, for instance, baking, is not sewing. They're asking for your industry skills. Let's say, for instance, you studied petroleum engineering. You could, which tests are you knowledgeable about, right? what software, what petroleum industry software are you good with? Stuff like Petrel, what's the other softwares and all that. So you should know, are you good in coding? You get stuff that will be related to NNPC. So those are the stuff you're going to present if you're asked. Then they could also ask you, tell us about a project you carried out, the objectives and recommendation. So the secret to this one is always to fall back to your undergraduate project. Just go straight. Don't even try thinking of what to do. Go straight to your undergraduate project. Use your undergraduate project. Tell them what you did, what was the objective of that project, and what recommendations you give after that. So if you can't remember, go back and just check a bit about your undergraduate project, because you might likely get this. So it's going to come. So that is that. So I wanted to open a copy of your CV so that we can go through your CV. I'll ask you some questions from your CV and hear you answer them. So because this is also how it's going to come on that day. Then I want you to activate your video because we've started entering the practical session. So I want to see your presentation and make recommendations where necessary.
Okay.
At the end of the day, what I want you to gain from this particular session where we looked at your CV is that questions will come from your CV. It's not can. Questions will come from your CV. They would ask a question from your CV. They could even question you about your CGPA, right? They could pick something that maybe I didn't pick during this session. They could maybe see a typo error and ask you, why is there a typo on your CV? Does it mean that you do not pay attention to details? You should be able to find a way to not to lie about the situation now, but just find a way to bail yourself out because you've already made a mistake on your CV. So stuff like that, you get, they could come. They could ask you why you did not add something or that you get. So you could say, oh, you just wanted to keep your CV simple and not add too many information that are not necessary. But now that it's mentioned, you would do well to add it, and so that in another situation, you don't find yourself where you did not put the right details. So just be diplomatic about some of those ones that you get here or there. So having done this part where we've looked at your CV, the next thing we're going to do is to look into other possible mock questions you can get. And you can take a screenshot of this, even though you get it replay. So here are some of those ones I said we have already set aside some answers for you. So some we have set aside the answers, some we haven't, so that you can be able to answer them, and I watch you do that. For instance, NNPC subsidiaries, we've done the work to pen them down for you. You could just know, you might not necessarily know all, because they might just ask you, oh, name 2 subsidiaries in the upstream, name 2 subsidiaries in the downstream. You should also be able to explain what you study petroleum engineering. You should also be able to explain what upstream, downstream, and midstream is, right? I think that's usually is taught. You get, so when they say upstream, what do they mean? You get, because they can look at you because you study petroleum engineering and really put that for you. So the other things I was telling you about, Port Harcourt refinery capacity, Warri refinery capacity, and Kaduna refinery, we have provided the answers to that. So when we come back, we're now going to look at some of the core questions that you would need to rack your brain. These other ones, the answers usually do not change. So that's why we have gone